Do you yearn for travel that involves outdoor adventure and learning? I do. I also have a passion for all things farming and agriculture. I've traveled to exotic jungles to learn about growing chocolate. I even once owned my own organic vegetable and sunflower farm. And now I'm planning my journey back to agriculture. Agritourism, defined as travel that involves some type of agricultural experience. Agritourism is all about entertaining. But the marketing strategist in me knows that at its core, agritourism is really about educating, and education affects change. My future farm needs to deliver a profound experience to all of its visitors. It needs to educate people about food, health, and climate. Join me to learn from experienced agritourism farmers and entrepreneurs and help me build my future farm strategy. And who knows, maybe one day soon you'll find yourself in a tropical jungle cutting open cacao pods with a machete, or savoring an outdoor plant-to-plate community dinner with 100 guests at a farm in Illinois. So let's tap into the agritourist in you. One of my best trips ever, exploring Costa Rica with my youngest daughter Abby for her 18th birthday and high school graduation. This past April, Abby and I embarked on an adventure to Costa Rica, packed with fake volcanic eruptions, ash clouds, rainforest hikes, stray dogs, serendipitous moments, magnificent sunsets, a cacao farm tour, chocolate and coffee tasting, delicious, clean, local meals, howler monkeys, the Pacific Ocean, waterfalls, and so much more. Taking it all in was not enough. I needed to debrief on this amazing agritourism adventure with my youngest on the podcast. I wanted to capture these moments forever on audio. Join Abby and I as we banter about our first-time adventures together in Costa Rica. This is Jen Ross, your Agri-Tourist Podcast host. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast and leave us a review. Enjoy the podcast. So, for my daughter Abby's 18th birthday and high school graduation, we decided we wanted to take a trip, or she decided, I'd prefer to take a trip. And I asked her what kind of trip does she want to go on? Where would she want to go? And what was her criteria for that? So I have here today my 18-year-old daughter, Abby, who actually just graduated high school yesterday. So, and after a nice little party last night, we are doing a podcast together. So Abby, when I asked you where you wanted to go and what your criteria for that travel was, what was it?
I mean, I was torn on where I wanted to go. I know I wanted to go away. I wanted to experience just somewhere new, beautiful sights. Anyone would want that. But what made me decide Costa Rica was honestly social media. Just saw a TikTok on it and I was like, hey mom, can we go? And it happened to be one of the best decisions to go there.
Actually, I know one of the things you told me at the time was you had to have beach. And
jet
I think,
skis. I think
you were referencing a trip we took during one of your basketball excursions to where?
Florida.
Yeah.
Clearwater. Yeah.
Clearwater Beach, where we did some jet skiing or wave running, whatever.
With a storm.
With a storm chasing us.
So, yeah. But made me want to do it again still, so I guess it was fun.
Yes, and me holding on for dear life behind,
with your fingers turning purple from holding on to the seat.
And then you telling me after that you saw a shark in the water.
It was in 3-foot waves that we're trying to get over.
It was intense, but you still wanted to go and try that experience again. So, we decided Costa Rica. And Costa Rica was a trip that I had always wanted to go on. And I actually had planned a trip to Costa Rica, and I got pregnant. And I was just a few months pregnant with Tyler, my son, my first son. And I was not feeling well during my pregnancy, and I just knew that there was no way I could go hiking and go to a volcano and, endure that type of trip at the time. So I had to forego the Costa Rica trip, and I hadn't, it's been Tyler's now 24 years old. So it's been 24 years since I thought about going again. So I was so excited to be able to do this, especially with you. And so when we first started looking at Costa Rica, I guess I didn't realize how big Costa Rica is. And, when I started looking at where to go, you have the Pacific Ocean side and then you have the Caribbean side. So which side do you go to? Where do you go? And I just did an interview with Good Now Farms Chocolate. And Tom and Monica were telling me they source from Costa Rica, and Monica had lived in Costa Rica. So I actually emailed to them, and I don't even know if you had known this, but I emailed them and I was like, where can we go? So they actually gave me some fantastic ideas, which actually was the impetus for the itinerary that we did develop. So let's dive in to our trip, because it was a pretty amazing trip. And I guess the first thing we need to cover is we went from LaGuardia to Charlotte, North Carolina airport. Yes. Layover. And we had a 2-second layover. Yeah, because we were late. We came in late. So then it was like a 30-minute layover where we were running through the airport. Yes. So then we got onto the plane. Yeah. And that was the plane destined for San Jose, Costa Rica. And what happened, Abby? That was an interesting experience. Well, we were out of breath, finally made it on the plane. And we're sitting there and we had gotten food. We just grabbed random food, so we're eating. And an announcement, we were late, but we didn't know why. And an announcement came over from the pilot. And it was like, he said, what did he say? I don't remember exactly, but he said something like, we're going to have a delay. We can't take off right now. There's due to the volcano. Yeah, due to a volcano eruption. Yeah, so he said something along the lines of eruption, which immediately, me being me, I laughed out loud. But there was no reaction on the plane. So that's when I realized, because I was laughing. I'm like, Mom, get a load of this guy. Like, he's trying to scare us. And I was like, damn, that's pretty messed up. But it's kind of funny. Like, I do the same. And then I look around and no one even has a reaction. Like, not laughing, no excitement, nothing. So I'm like, I turn to you and I'm like, is he being serious? So then that's when I started questioning what actually is happening. And that's when he came on again for the second time and reminded us that now we can take off because the ash that had been spit out of the volcano is moving with the wind. So we're able to take off now. And that's when I kind of looked at you and I was like, oh, like, this is real. Wow. Okay. Do we know where we're going? Are we okay? There's no turning back now. The concern I had, I had many concerns, but the concern I had was I knew that our first destination was a 3-hour car trip to a volcano. So I'm thinking, what volcano is spitting ash? So I text a friend and I'm like, please look up what's going on in Costa Rica. And he writes back that one of the volcanoes, Poas volcano, which was directly north of San Jose where we were flying into, was the one that was spitting some ash and had been active most recently, and they were concerned about an eruption. But apparently that ash cloud blew the other way, so we were able to fly in. Didn't they say like a 3 out of 4 chance of erupting? I'm like, oh, that's a great thing to hear. And the volcano we were visiting, Arenal, was like northwest. It was just a little west of this volcano. So it was I was a little bit nervous. It was an introduction. Yeah. It was for sure an introduction. So we did make it to San Jose. And then we had the adventure of getting the car. Of course, I picked a company that didn't have a car at the airport. False advertising. That's all I can say. Yes. So we were, it took us a while to get the guy to get us to the car. And then when we got there, it was like this little city we had to go. And the car was nothing like what we saw online. It was tinier, made more noises, and just bare minimum of, and of course it did not have GPS, which I really wasn't thinking through all these things because, when you travel, your phone doesn't always have connection or you're going to have to roam. And I hadn't thought through all that. So I had to use my phone, and we had a 3.5 hour journey ahead of us on roads that I did not know. We did not expect. The signs were in Spanish for the most part, which the language barrier, and I didn't know how the driving was there. And I anticipated there might be some windy roads, which was concerning me. And one of the other factors I didn't think of is they don't have daylight savings. So it got dark early. Yeah. And so we traveled partly in the dark. But that trip, you want to describe that first drive up to the volcano area, La Fortuna?
Yeah. So, I mean, I had no clue what to expect with the roads, first of all. Like, just saying that from the beginning, we went into the city. So everything was flat. As soon as we crossed out of that city, it was all uphill. It was put that car into gear and you just hear it rev, going up and hoping to make it. Very windy roads and only one wet, like one, yeah,
two lane basically highway.
Yeah. In this car.
So you get stuck behind trucks, and then one of the funny things and I do have this journal here that I'll occasionally read out of. I think this one there was a segment here about this. There's certain types of dogs we kept seeing. Remember that?
Yeah, as I like to call them. I call them wiener dogs. What's the actual? I don't even know.
I used to call them Frankfurter dogs.
They know. The people listening know what we're talking about.
Dash hounds.
Whatever it is.
Yeah. So
wiener dogs.
So it was really funny. We kept seeing them along the path.
Yeah,
it was
and of
really
course
strange.
There's many stray dogs.
And then as it got dark, so I wrote here. In the journal I wrote the trip was windy, scary at times, scenic, claustrophobic. Going uphill was challenging for this car we had. Winding up hills and down hills, it made it a grueling ride. And unfortunately, it got dark earlier, and they don't have daylight savings. So then our Waze indicated there was an object in the road ahead, as Waze always does. So we're thinking it's a car or something. And it was really dark at this time. And Abby had commented earlier, as you just said, that there were many wiener dogs in Costa Rica. And all of a sudden, this object ran across the street in front of the car. I pretty much slammed on my brakes, and it was a wiener dog.
Yeah,
it was
a fat one too. It was a thick wiener dog.
Yeah, I think I laughed so hard that I almost crashed the car.
Yeah, you should have probably pulled over. Because I remember I was in charge of the directions, so I'm like, Mom, it says object ahead. Like, you better. I don't know. It's Costa. We haven't been here. We've been here for a few hours. I don't know what's going to be in this road. And
it's a wiener dog.
Coincidentally, the same time we get right up to this thing in the road that's on the map, a wiener dog flies past our car.
Just these little weird things.
Yeah.
So then we go through La Fortuna to get to our Airbnb, and La Fortuna is kind of it's a really cute downtown area, like walkable restaurants. So we kind of passed through there, and we kept going to our Airbnb was just a few minutes out. But the GPS, of course, screwed up, and it wasn't taking us to. It was taking us kind of like just on the road, and we never could find the number. Yeah. So we go back down. This was another weird thing that happened. We go back down.
I haven't been here for over 3 hours yet, and
I pulled back down the road, like probably a half a mile down the road, and I just pulled into this
like
convenience store type of place, and I back into this spot, and I had the windows open, and me and Abby are trying to figure out where to go. I was actually trying to find the phone number, and a guy on a bike pulls up, and he's like, Jennifer?
Yeah.
I'm in the middle of Costa Rica. I'm like, what? We both.
My first thought was, you've been here before? Like, how does this man know your name?
I know.
I didn't know whether to
so
like
weird. I was
be
like,
scared. I was like, I don't know what's about to happen.
And he's like, and he said, I don't, whatever his name was. And he's like, oh, you're Airbnb. So this was the guy, the husband of the Airbnb owner. I guess he knew I was on my way, and we looked lost. He knew it was, I guess, a mother and daughter.
Is there any way he knew what you looked like?
No. Well, I don't have my picture on Airbnb. It was strange. And so he basically called his wife and had her stand outside waiting for us. So we drove back up the road, and it had been one of the homes that we had passed. But the weird thing about a lot of the homes in Costa Rica, similar to other Caribbean islands and other Central American islands, they're all gated. They have these huge gates that are around their homes. It's almost intimidating because you're like, why? But there are these huge gates. So we couldn't see anything, and it was dark. And so we were, we found it finally. And then, what was your first impression of the Airbnb itself?
I mean, it was beautiful. Of course, even when we pulled up, the gate did intimidate me. I was like, okay, just click the button, it opens up, cool, it shouldn't be a problem. We walked in, at first you look at it, you're like, oh, it's small, I don't know, I'm not comfortable, like, blah, blah, that's me. But as soon as we spent one night in it, I loved it. It's very well taken care of, good water, the water gets hot, thank God.
Good shower.
Yeah, it was very nice.
Yeah, it was beautiful. Like, it was on a second floor. It was almost like a treehouse type of style. And it was on their property. So we'll talk to you about the chickens in a second and some of the other animals on the property. But it was like you were almost in a rainforest, because in the mornings there, literally, like, all you heard were the monkeys and the bugs and the chickens. And it was just all these... Hey, it's Jen, your Agri-Tourist Podcast host. I need to interrupt this podcast for a few seconds. I always want to support the people I interview. So if you're planning on visiting the Berkshires this summer and fall season, Dory Schofield, owner of Berkshire Farm Sanctuary and Save a Pet on Long Island, and myself have partnered up to help her create an Agra destination at her sanctuary. We are starting small with 5 exciting chocolate cocktail hours for all of you chocolate lovers out there. You'll start with a chocolate mocktail or a cocktail and indulge in some delicious charcuterie, plant-based of course. Then you'll be guided through a chocolate experience and learn how chocolate is made from bean to bar. Savor the tastes of real chocolate from all around the world and depart the farmhouse with some of your favorite chocolate bars in hand. Proceeds support all of Dory's rescued animals at the sanctuary. Remember, there are only 5 dates starting Saturday, July 5th, and once they're booked, that's it. So visit berkshirefarmsanctuary.org or heartbeatfarms.com to register now. Thank you for listening, and I will hand you back over to the podcast. Animal noises, and it was
in the mountains,
so beautiful. Yes.
That surround us, you could see the clouds because they weren't at the top. They would be halfway through the mountains.
It was pretty much all volcanoes technically around us. They were dormant, obviously, but it was beautiful, and it was cool there. It wasn't hot.
No, it was not really that sunny when we were there either. It was more like cloudy. It was really perfect. So that night we went to dinner at this beautiful open air restaurant right down the road from us. And then the next day we met with the woman who owned the Airbnb, who was amazing, and she helped us figure out an itinerary because we weren't there. We were only there for a few days. Yeah, even though there was a language barrier, she was terrific. I mean, I took Spanish in high school, but I knew some words, but I didn't know, sentences. But she definitely put in the effort to understand, and she wanted to, help us. She did us really good because So the first day, what did we do the first day? That was we went up to the volcano and did a hike. Yes, we hiked to... Tell us about that. That was Arenal volcano. Right. So we went to kind of the main area, and then we literally hiked. You can't get close to the volcano. No, it's a hike. I mean, the hike was great. It was a great hike. You're the hiker. You love going on long walks. I was like, okay, you know what? We're going to do this. But I ended up enjoying it throughout. We actually got lost too at the end but once we got towards the volcano, I was like, there's no way we're going to get that close. No, as soon as we hiked up these rocks, we looked to our left and there's the volcano just right there, right in front of us. And that day, what happened on that day was an amazing day because it was one of the only days we were there where there were no clouds. There was no and I've talked to the people who actually have been, and I've seen things on social media. They're always the top part is always covered. You can never see the full thing because the clouds. Yep. And of course we go up, there's no clouds. We can see the full thing. You can see every inch of this volcano, everything.
It was beautiful. We have beautiful pictures. And let me just read this because this was interesting. I always thought Arenal volcano was completely dormant.
Right.
Like there was no activity. And then let me read this. So today was beautiful, majestic, and tiring. The hike was great. Great exercise. The views of the volcano were amazing. The rainforest was so cool. Didn't know that Arenal volcano was dormant for 400 years until 1968 when it blew. And there were tragic losses. It was active up until 2010 and has quieted since then. I was like, 2010? When I had read that, the thing was dormant for 400 years. And then in 68, it erupted and people lost their lives. And then in 2010, I'm not sure if it was an actual eruption or if it was puffing ash.
Right.
But either way, you kind of think when we were standing there, anything could have happened.
You have no clue. Even being in Costa Rica, I feel like in that area, it is a risk in a way, as much as like the beautiful sights, the beautiful animals, everything there, the beautiful people. It's like you sit there for a second, you're like surrounded by volcanoes that could go off any minute, and I'm not even gonna know. Like I could be sleeping and a volcano could go off, and yeah,
it's intense. And one thing when I was looking at that volcano when we were sitting up there and we had that beautiful view, just the bigness of it was pretty intense.
It was
like,
huge.
You
Up
just
close, it is.
The bigness, not just in size, definitely in size, but in power.
Yeah.
It's almost like...
That's something that I thought of when we were further in the trip, when we went to the cacao farm and all that, which we'll get into. But I realized that people who live in Costa Rica, they almost use the volcano for their benefit with growing because the volcanic ash is better for the soil. But it's like they're almost taking that chance. Like, this is helping me so much grow and captivate all these things, but it can erupt and kill us in seconds. So I just thought that was like, that kind of thought like made my mind work more. But it was a random thought, but yeah.
So that day we also wanted to get to a second hike. And and so what did I do? What did Mom do?
Well, with all her bright ideas, I will say this was definitely the brightest one. But maybe I didn't prevent it, so that's partly my fault too. But we couldn't. There was one entrance that I think we couldn't get to, so we were like, let's go around the other way. So we went back. And it's like a dirt road. It doesn't really look intimidating.
It supposedly leads to this second hike that we really wanted to do.
We had, 4-wheel drive. We had a different gear that, like, we can get up dirt. So we start driving. We take this turn onto this road that has no signs. We don't know if it's going to lead to anything. But on literally a paper map that we had to whip out, that's what it said. So now, we're going based on that. And then suddenly, just rocks. Starts off with bunch of rocks. We're bumping. The car is screeching. Keeps going. And then it just starts getting worse from there until we come to this hill that has these craters.
And the size of the car.
Yeah. Me being me, I was like, let's do it. And you had the mind in that moment that kind of brought me back down to earth and was like, we're not making this up. Like, we're going to get stuck on this hill. So we had to turn around, a slim turn, and there was a couple behind us following us for some reason. I think they had the same idea. So then they realized, oh, we got to turn around too. So we had to go back down the bumpy road, back to the street, and we never made it to that second hike after that. We were like, you know what? That's our sign. We're not making it to this hike.
Yeah, we
saw enough.
That definitely was a bumpy, that was tough.
Yeah, I mean, I have videos and the camera's shaking.
So that night, was that the night we went out to that really good dinner, or was it the next night? I think it was.
I think it was the second night, because we only stayed 3 nights.
Talk about dinner. So we had, on the way to the hike, we had passed this Caribbean seafood type of restaurant.
Yeah, it definitely wouldn't be a restaurant we would pick right off the bat. Like, it seemed empty almost, that it gives you usually you like to go to places if you see a lot of people, it looks, and it was just kind of this open place, no windows, you go sit down, empty, very empty. And we were like, let's try it. We just, I don't know, something, it wasn't, too much of a drive in the dark because you don't know in Costa Rica. It's very difficult, I could imagine. I wasn't even driving, and I was like, had my hands on my seatbelt, holding it tight. So we went to, what was it called? It was like, what was the name of the restaurant?
I don't know. It just really, I don't know if it had a name. I just said like Caribbean and seafood on the outside.
Yeah, we had went, and I didn't eat fish really prior. Like I've dabbled with some fish, but I've never ate fish until Costa Rica. And now that I'm back home, I love fish. So Costa Rica is the reason that I expanded that. But
and what did you have there? It was also
so
the way it was presented was key too.
So I had mahi, which I had never had prior. Honestly, the only thing I've had is salmon, which is basic now that I expanded the palate and had that. But that was also your suggestion, because I was like, I don't know any of these, but a main dish that they have is fish there because it's so local. So I tried it, and it's now one of my favorite. Like, I still daydream about like the first time having that. So good that I forced my mother to bring me back the next day for the same exact place to get it again.
And it was really good because it came with all these vegetables and
it's shrimp. It was so like,
and
filling,
when it came out like
right off
on fire.
Yeah,
like
right off the grill, and everything you can just taste was fresh. It was fresh, and I'm still.
We'll talk a little bit more about the food because I want to talk later about your comments about how you felt when at the end of that trip. You made a comment to me, and I didn't initiate that comment because you would think I would have, and I was really impressed that you picked up on some of that. But we'll talk more about that. So day 2 was a very adventurous day.
We did a lot,
and again, kudos to our Airbnb lady. She hooked us up. Abby wanted to do ATV riding, kind of, because we didn't do the jet skiing yet. The ATV riding. We
had to
by
do
water.
something. Yeah.
So we went ATV riding, and we didn't really know about the itinerary because we booked it right through this woman. Like she actually called and booked it for us.
Yeah, she called for us. Yeah,
and we didn't even know what the itinerary was, what it included, and let's talk about that trip, because that was probably not that like everything was a highlight, but this was one of the highlights because of where we went,
100%,
and everything we experienced.
Because you would think, ATV immediately, of course, that's going to be fun, adventurous, but it's so different, like from what I expected. Like from here, ATVing here through the woods. No, we ATV'd on the side of these mountains, and it took us through water. It took us through everything you can imagine, and it was beautiful. And especially the guides who were with us, these young men who just like would help you throughout the whole way, jokesters, just people you'd love to be around. And that's something I also picked up being in Costa Rica. Like everyone was just like, they just felt so welcoming. Like even though there might be a language barrier, you can still laugh at the same things. You can still relate to them in a way, which I thought was just so different from anything.
Yeah, there were the views during this ride were so beautiful. Like we really saw Costa Rica during this ride.
Yeah.
Like I felt like we were in the real heart of Costa Rica and the farmland. And we ended up in the middle of the trip. We stopped at a real farm.
Yeah. Which
animals, vegetable,
know.
They were growing vegetables out of these tires, and
it's almost like they looked up who you were and made it just for you.
Honestly, I was like so in my element.
And
so unexpected. So we stopped there. We get a whole visit on this farm.
Animals.
You actually sit on a bull, like a big white.
Yeah, even before
bull.
that, you're allowed to they had puppies, and they took care of them too. Like
it was
you
really
saw
cool.
all these farm animals, and then the bull. Yeah, they had this bull. It had the ring in its nose and everything. This massive bull.
It was white too.
And you get to sit on it.
And they said that was the smallest one.
Yeah,
we'll put pictures up. But
huge.
And then we go into the house, and they give us this full lunch.
Yeah, the one of the women who had, I guess, owned the farm.
Yeah,
like an elderly woman, cooked us such a traditional meal.
Yes, a traditional Costa Rican meal. That was like the best.
Plantains, tortilla. It was like beans.
Yeah,
like authentic tacos. And like, so I don't know what there was like something that we put in there. I don't know exactly what it was, but that almost made it even better because it tasted.
Yes. And then didn't they have a dessert too?
Yes, they had it was like this bread that was almost hard with sugar on it.
So good. It was delicious.
It was so good.
It was so
and the
satisfying.
view, even the view there,
Yes,
we were looking
up
over.
High. We were
all
up high.
like, yeah.
Yep. It was beautiful. And then on the way back, they had us stop by this river.
Right.
A river we had kind of went through coming and got soaking wet. But they let us stop and you could actually go swimming in the river. And then we took a little hike with one of the guides and we saw some howler monkeys. And they were talking to us about the guava and showing us the guava that the howler monkeys eat and stuff like that.
And
so
how,
it was just, again, so educational. You know, when I talk about agritourism, this is true agritourism. Like
full experience.
It was
like
amazing.
Even the food, full experience of what Costa Rica is like.
And then so after that trip, which was just a few hours, but it was amazing. We drove into La Fortuna and we had lunch. And what was cool about where we had lunch, again, totally unexpected. One thing about Costa Rica that I discovered, which I never knew, a lot of times when you go to the Caribbean or Central America, you'll see a lot of dogs on the streets, hungry. There were a lot of dogs.
Yeah.
But they seem to be,
dogs.
Well, besides the wiener dogs, there were other dogs. Yeah. They seem to be well taken care of, more than I've ever seen in a country. And they seem to be happy dogs.
None of them seemed vicious or like, upset with the way they were living.
The restaurant we happened to go to, just picked out of the blue that day, their mission of that restaurant was to raise money for dogs on the street, basically. And I just, again, it was just so cool.
Yeah, like their money and stuff went to it. Yeah.
They really cared. And so it was kind of really cool that we had stopped at that restaurant and our money was going towards that.
And like you were saying, it showed with the dog's behavior in a way. You could see like they just walked around like la da da da.
Yeah, they were happy.
I'm here. I get fed. I go to the random people and I'll get fed.
Yep.
Yeah, they were happy. They were really happy.
And then after that, we went back. We probably took a nap because we were exhausted. And then we ended up
burnt from being on those.
We booked.
Those ATVs.
You know, of course, I had to incorporate some chocolate into my adventure. So we booked a tour of this chocolate and coffee. I forget, Don Juan's. Was it Don Juan? I can't remember the name of it. It was a small, in essence, it was a small cacao and coffee farm. And they also grew plantains and so many other things. Yeah. And they gave this tour. And it was a really, really organized tour, like with like, you know, diagrams of things.
You get to hold the pods.
Oh, it was great. It was absolutely
Taste
great. So we learned all about how chocolate is grown, which, you know, I always learn something new, even though I know a lot about that process.
You could have gave that tour.
We got to this area where we actually got to make chocolate.
Right.
And put some flavors in it. And
they pretty much lined us with a bunch of ingredients. Like if you want to make it more milky or more, you know, they have this milk powder, sugar, cinnamon. They had everything.
Yep,
and you just add it yourself. You make your own chocolate from scratch.
And then from there, we went on the coffee making process.
While our chocolate was freezing to make into
it was
a chocolate
molding,
bar. But you had eaten most of yours.
I know. Sorry. I can't help myself. I was hungry.
At least you liked it.
So what's cool about... See, I don't know much about coffee. I'm not a coffee drinker. However, I have to say, I learned so much about that. And I never realized how intricate the process is to make coffee. And you think about how much coffee exists, like how much people drink it, you know, multiple times a day.
And
millions of people drink it.
We get it.
And these beans, like there are layers in the beans, and they only use a certain layer of the bean to make the coffee, apparently. And I'm like, it was so intricate. Where like chocolate is such a compared to coffee, chocolate seems so simple a process, and I know it's not simple. So I'm not trying to say that.
That's something we learned.
But
is how not simple it was. Like,
oh my god! And actually, we did taste we tasted a bunch of coffee,
and that's the weird part. Is like I don't drink coffee, you don't drink coffee, but it wasn't
very,
bad.
very good.
It was good. Like
it was pure.
It tasted like. Now I understand why people who live in Costa Rica love coffee, because they love coffee there. Like it's like he was talking about how it's like a normal thing. Coffee every morning. And
that was one other thing I learned. You know, they used to export coffee and cacao a lot, but they don't do that. They don't do that. I mean, I know they do it on a small scale, but it's not part of their economy. most of their economy is tourism now. And that shifted over the, last several years, which is happening in a lot of countries. And these tours in essence are tourism. So they make it more for in-country demand, not for exporting, which again, this is interesting stuff. Like you don't know this stuff until you really meet people from the country and talk to them. So that day was amazing. And I think, we had dinner at that place again that night. So the third, so the next morning we basically were leaving for the beach, which is where Abby, really wanted to go. And that we knew we had, I don't remember, that was probably a 4 to 5 hour drive, all in all, and it was really one thing. It was an interesting drive. Go ahead.
You go to La Fortuna. It's green. It's jungle.
Lush.
Yeah. And I don't even know. It happened in a blink of an eye almost. We're driving up these hills and the normal, what we've been experiencing all our time in Costa Rica. And then suddenly it just went like desert. Like empty roads, not even a lot of cars.
A lot of sand.
Nothing to look at.
Hot.
And that was before we even hit the one highway in Costa Rica. And it was just hot. It almost looked at some parts like there was fires. Like it was just a change. And I think both of us were on edge.
We almost wanted to go back.
Yeah, we were like, is this going to lead to a beach? I don't know. But
and then so we ended up in the Guanacaste region, which was one of the recommendations from Monica from Good Now Farms. And I had, it's very hard. I didn't know where to pick, and I picked something called Cocoa Beach. I have to admit, when I first got there, it's really weird. It's so different than here. Like there was this one road in, and it was, I did not know if my car was going to make it. I was kind of nervous, but we made it in. And when you get there, it was really cool. Like there was, everything was right by the beaches. There was like restaurants and outdoor places and bars and all this. But it was kind of like when you go to a new place, sometimes it's just like there's a tension. You don't know it. And I did feel like when we had a condo and it had a pool. It was like in a complex. But we kind of felt, I was just like, I don't know. I was like not comfortable at first.
Kind of regretting it.
I was like, maybe I shouldn't have picked this place. Maybe this wasn't the right place. But then we walked. Literally, the beach was literally across the street.
Yeah,
and and then we walked down to the beach that night, and we got to see the sunset over the Pacific Ocean. And talk about that.
I think that's what opened us up, because immediately right off the bat, we weren't comfortable. We were almost questioning if it was safe to walk at night. It just seemed like that uncomfortable, offsetting feeling. We went to go see the sunset. Of course, it is breathtaking. It's nothing like you see here on Long Island or in the United States, but it's surreal. It's a experience that it's just in your head, but seeing it up and personal, it's unexplainable. Words can't describe like the warmth that a sunset like that can bring you. And I think that's what immediately kind of just opened us up to like that comfort feeling, knowing that we're 2 minutes every night away from this view, which I think every single night we went to go see.
Every night. And that was one thing I noticed. Every night, everyone came down to the beach to watch the sunset. And the sunset was setting around 6:30 at that time, because there was no daylight savings, and it was a few months ago. It was, but yes, everyone and their dogs came out to see the sunset.
Random dogs came to see.
They just all assembled. It was just like this rite of passage every night.
Yeah, the bikes would come.
End of the day thing. Kids.
They drove dirt bikes there, a lot of dirt bikes, and all the dirt bikes would pull up, and they would just set up. And
I just felt such a camaraderie and such a feeling of belonging and community there that I have never seen, honestly, in all the travels I've done. I've never seen that kind of gathering, just to watch something so beautiful every night and just to share that moment. Like so many people, tourists and locals, were sharing this moment together. It was just such a powerful thing. Every night we were there, we felt. And then I think we, again, like you said, I think we warmed up to the place in a very different way after that. And so we spent a lot of time at the beach, at the pool, walking through town there, going to some restaurants in town. There was like this bar restaurant and we saw some bands.
Yeah.
It was just, and we almost didn't want to move the car and go anywhere because it just was really comfortable. It was just like you became part of the everyday there.
It was a quick change in heart. It was quick.
And I have to say, I felt everywhere I went in Costa Rica, I felt safe.
We could walk.
It was one of the fears I had, especially being two women, going to a new country, driving ourselves on roads I didn't know.
Right.
But I have to say, I felt extremely safe there. And we are from New York. We're not stupid when it comes to that. But at the same time, there was just such a comfortable feeling there. We met a gentleman who was from Canada who kind of lives there off and on, and they were telling us that it is the area we were in was actually one of the nicest, safest places, which was awesome.
Yeah.
So one of the things we did do when we were there, we did take one trip to La Leona waterfalls, and that was about a 2-hour drive out. So so that was like a hike up to a waterfall through these, like you crossed, the river and you walked through water and you had to
hold on to like a rope.
And it was grueling. It was one of, I questioned
almost
myself
broke
a few
my
times.
nose again on
Well, yeah, talk about that. That was at the very beginning.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
because in the beginning, you're just hiking. You don't immediately go through water. It's not immediately like, oh my gosh, like. So the first thing we came upon was like this little cliff. Not little. It was definitely like a cliff, and you have the option they give you to jump off, and then you just swim around, and then you walk back up, and we continue. So whoever wants to jump off. Thank God I went first, because I was trying to tell you, don't do it. But something just came over me. I just walked off. I don't even think I told you ahead of time, like, oh, I'm going to go. I just kind of stood there and I was like, okay. And I jumped and I forgot to hold my nose. So when I hit, like it just the pressure of hitting, it made my nose bleed. So, but immediately when I came back, I didn't realize.
But we couldn't see you anymore because the way you jump, you go kind of to the side and you're down.
Yeah.
And usually people walk back up.
Right.
Well, you didn't come back up.
No. So,
so
and
I
then
got
immediately
nervous.
something I realized, because you had mentioned to me before I went, like, oh, maybe I'll do it. Like, maybe. Like, you kind of like were, which I was like, okay, go, Mom. Like, cool. So I went first and I realized my knees touched the rocks. So when I had jumped in, I didn't know where to jump. I was like, it seems to be safe. I mean, if they can do it, I can do it, And I remember my feet hitting the ground. Like, immediately when I jumped, I was like, oh, like, I guess no diving.
Oh, God.
Yeah, so when I hit the water on impact, I didn't realize I came up like, yeah. So I'm swimming, and then suddenly just feel it. I have this feeling, and I'm like, I don't think this is water coming out of my nose right now. So I look down, and of course, in this crystal clear blue water, is blood around me. And of course, I think the locals, there were 2 people, and they're looking at me like, and I'm just sitting there wiping my nose like nothing happened because I'm so used to it. And I'm like, don't worry about it. I'm good. I promise I don't need help. Just give me a few minutes. So I'm here splashing water constantly on my face, and it would not stop. Like, it is pouring out of my nose. And I'm like, I can't go back. Like, I have nothing. And I remember the guy came and he's like, are you okay? Because one of our guides, I was like, yeah, I'll be fine. Just like I said to the other people, just give me a few minutes. It's gotta come out. I can't stop it. And then that's when he got you, and you're like, what happened? I left you alone for 2 seconds and you didn't come back. And I was like,
I was nervous.
Yeah. So I just, I took off the shirt I had on, and I just used that as a cloth. So that was the start.
Yes. Yeah, that was the start.
That was just the start.
It was an adventure. I honestly think I used every muscle in my body, and we made it to the top. And it was weird when you go to the top by the waterfall, there's so much pressure coming down because it's like rapids coming down, and you have to kind of pull yourself on this
road. It's not
rope.
the warmest water either.
It's freezing. And so we get to the waterfall, and the waterfall is amazing. But I also would think when I was there, I was thinking, wow, there's this big rock at the top of the waterfall. And I'm like wow.
A circle.
Hopefully
like
there's
like a boulder,
no earthquake or volcano eruption, because if that comes down, we're gone. And then you have to climb back down the whole thing.
Yeah, there's no shortcut back down. You're going the exact swimming across these rapids the exact same way.
It was an amazing trip, but it took every ounce of energy I had.
Yeah.
And I honestly, truly, when we got back, I was so wiped out.
I remember I was like, usually I'm like, you're fine, you're ready to go. I'm usually the one like, I need a nap. I can't.
I was exhausted.
I remember
it took everything out of me.
The muscles were in pain.
Absolutely. So let's talk about, again, your seafood thing continued, and on our last night there, I found a really good seafood restaurant that was about 12-minute walk from where we were, because we like to walk everywhere, and it was 12 minutes in the opposite direction than town. So you want to talk about? Tell everyone who Chico was, because that was another thing. Every place we went, including in La Fortuna, the Airbnb, they had a dog too. Friendly. They had chickens. We forgot to tell them about the chicken.
Oh yes, the roosters.
The little mutant rooster.
Yeah,
from the first La Fortuna.
That, yeah.
And they had a dog too who loved Abby. Everywhere we went, we met a dog that
even
connected with Abby. Yes, we'll talk about that. The drums from the last place. But specifically, there was a dog during Cocoa Beach named Chico. And we thought Chico was someone at the complexes because we would see him come and go.
His mannerism was
but then we found out that he doesn't belong to anyone. No. He was kind of just a stray. But there were people who want to adopt him that come down there a lot. But he's, one of the people that want to take him are from Newfoundland, and we were like, this dog is used to, Costa Rica weather.
Happiest dog ever.
And he was the most independent dog. So he started following Abby and I around a lot. Like, I went for breakfast. I went to get Abby a bagel one morning, and around the corner was this little cafe, and I went, and the dog found me and followed me. And the dog wanted to come inside the cafe, and I didn't let it. I closed the door. And this guy's like, "Oh, your dog's out there waiting for you." And I'm like, "That's not my dog." No, everyone thought it was my dog. Yeah. And I'm like, "It's not my dog." And he would find us everywhere we went.
The sunset too we had that night.
We have a picture of him watching the sunset in front of us.
He came to say hi to us, and then he just plopped right down in the sand, and no one's around him. And he's just watching the sunset. If a hippie was a dog, it would be Chico.
Yes.
And Chico means boy in Spanish, so that's what the name he got. That's what the people of the condo. And
so talk about we were on our way to this seafood dinner at this supposedly one of the best seafood places in this area,
and one of the most fanciest places.
Yeah, for Costa Rica.
We had to dress up.
Yes.
and for Costa Rica.
So we started our walk, and what happens?
Well, we were walking out of like the fence almost to just leave to get onto the road, and here comes Chico out of nowhere. Literally, I don't even know if he came from behind us, from the side, but he comes and he starts walking with us. And I remember we were considering going to this different place because we didn't decide. So you ran in, and I'm like, he's gonna follow. I'm going to sit out here with Chico. And I remember everyone passing was like, "Oh, your cute dog." I'm like, no, he's not my dog. I'm not from here. I don't know who this dog is, but he's nice. Super friendly dog, by the way. Like, just at peace. Sweet. He just seemed at peace at heart.
Got along with all the other dogs.
Yeah. No, 100%. Like, he just walked around everywhere. So we had decided we're going to walk the 12 minutes. So it was like, honestly, also one of the further walks that we did
especially it was dark.
Yeah, it was dark. It was around like 8 o'clock.
But again, didn't feel unsafe at all.
No, even walking through the local streets.
Yep.
Yeah. So he had, as we started to walk, he started following us. And I don't know about you in the moment, but I was definitely like, you know what, he'll merge off. He'll go see a bird or just something that's going to get his attention. There's no way. It's a 12-minute walk. he followed us the whole walk there. There's times he'd be across the street still walking parallel to us, and then he'd come back, but he'd walk in between us, he'd walk behind us, in front of us. We would turn, he would still turn too. And we're like, oh, like I didn't think immediately right off the bat, like I wasn't worried. As soon as we started getting closer, I started thinking to myself, what are we gonna do with this dog? Because he had his body language, he had no mind of I'm gonna leave. He was right by our side the whole way. But that almost even felt comforting, because it's like, as much as we feel safe, we have now Chico to protect us.
Yes.
Yeah, and then we got finally to the place, beautiful place too.
And the front doors open.
Yeah, the front doors were open. That's just Costa Rica too, so that wasn't even surprising. That's like another thing I caught on. Like everything was just kind of open. Like everyone trusted everyone.
And so
yeah,
Chico...
so he was still following us, so we had stopped and been like, so we stopped in the mind of, we can't let these people, know that we brought this dog here, even though it's not, we didn't purposely bring it. He didn't stop though. So before we went in, we stopped. He kept walking. He just ran right into the restaurant. Like no thought, he just curved it out right into the doors. And that's when we stopped and we covered our mouths and we were like, uh-oh. Now what? We were like, okay, let's wait a second so it doesn't look like we brought it in. It seems smart at the time. There's nothing, no one would think. So we finally walk in. We don't see Chico.
Describe the restaurant, though.
Oh, it's around. So there's like these tables for two, and it's around this pool, and it's like kind of dark,
and it's open.
It's
air.
got light, like nice,
nice
lights. There's like this local, like
kind of romantic.
This live, almost like that was the word, like almost like intimate place.
Yes.
It's like low lighting. There's a band, but it's playing slow music. It's like this woman singer. So definitely the fancy. And I remember we walk in and we didn't see Chico at first. We're like, you know what? Maybe he went out the back way. Who knows? Maybe he. And then suddenly we turn the corner because the waiters bring us to a table, and of course, I see him, and I don't even know how to describe it. Like, he seemed like a human. He's sitting behind this couple, I assume, at this fancy place, and they're just like, they're waiting for their food, and he is sitting behind the woman, like with his head poked out behind the chair, looking at me, and he almost had this smile on his face, like he was like ready to cause trouble. Like in my mind, I was like, oh, like of course he has to be looking at me right now. Like he had this look like he was about to do something. So we walk past Chico, we sit down. What does Chico do? He announces to the whole place that we brought him there. He sits right next to us, and he is letting us, he wants attention. I mean,
and meanwhile, we're sitting right in front of the singers, so everyone's kind of looking this way.
Oh yeah, no,
and we're like literally plopped in front of the two singers, and it's like it was.
They were serenading him at that point. He started to lay down in front of, like right in front of them,
watching them,
literally just watching them,
just listening,
not
to the
moving,
music.
just sitting there watching them. Wait, who is this dog? Like that's we just met this dog, and he's in a restaurant with us that is supposed to be the fanciest restaurant. And I'm like, oh, this can't get any worse. Like, he's got to leave. He's got, eventually. And no, he didn't. The waiter came over. I had ordered I tried grouper, I think.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Amazing food too. Of course, amazing food. And he's going around, and now he's starting, because there was these cats, these like almost small, very like baby cats. And they would just wander. They don't bother, and he was chasing after them
in the middle of the restaurant.
In the middle, and I'm like, he's about to knock someone into this pool.
And he was visiting every table, and then he almost jumped in the pool at one point.
I grabbed him.
You had to grab him.
I don't even know. I think something flew in the pool, and he went to go get it.
Yes, he literally was going to jump in the pool, and then he started digging in the sand next to the singers, like he was trying to dig something up,
and he was pulling something with his teeth. And suddenly you watch like him like jerk back, and he has a cord. He pulled out. He literally bit through this cord.
We didn't know if it was going to turn off the music,
turn off the lights, stop the stoves. Who knew?
And one of the people at the restaurant was trying to get him out of the restaurant and unsuccessfully.
But the best part was that everyone loved him there.
Yeah.
No one was complaining. No one was getting up and be like, get this dog out of here.
Forget it.
It was normal
here,
for him.
that would never happen. Yeah, no, people were very welcoming to him. No one
They
seemed
loved him.
unhappy about
and
it.
he loved them. Like he was.
But we were still like, oh man.
He would always, after doing these things, these outrageous things, he would come and still sit right next to us, like letting everyone know, like, these people brought me in. Don't blame me.
But
blame
he
these
then
people.
connected with some woman on the other side and then ended up leaving with her.
Yeah.
And then one of the guys closed the front door.
Yeah,
so
right as he left, so he couldn't
in.
get back in. But
And it was funny. Unfortunately, we were like, when we left, we were like, is he going to be there when we go out? And he wasn't.
no.
But I have to say, so we walked home. And then the next morning, I got up for my early morning walk and I walked all the way down the beach. And out of the blue, I mean, I was definitely like 2 miles away from us on the beach. And out of the blue, who comes running on the beach? Chico.
Yep.
And
Who else?
I'm like, oh no, I almost didn't want him to see me because I'm like, oh, he's gonna follow me now. And he didn't see me at first, and then all of a sudden he saw me and he beelined it and he came home with me. He was amazing.
He's a dog you want to bring home. You
he
want around.
he was
just
amazing.
friendly.
But at the same time, that's his home.
That's his home. Yeah, he's so independent
He
too.
controlled the place.
He got free food, free water. He was living.
Yeah, he knew exactly where to go for food and water and all that. So that was our last dinner, and then the next morning we knew what I did was, since the airport was probably a 3 to 4 hour drive away, according to the map it was like 3.5 hours, but everywhere there takes a lot longer. I got another Airbnb that was closer to the airport for the last night because I just didn't want to take the risk, and I'm so grateful I didn't, because the drive back to that Airbnb was tough. And it was grueling. There was a lot of construction. There was a lot of traffic. There was 1-lane highways. We were caught behind trucks, going up hills and winding paths. And it was exhausting. I got to say, driving there is it's tiring more than anything. So when we got to that place, it was this beautiful paradise. It was like this beautiful
like resort, yeah.
But like a very eclectic, very tropical resort in the middle of this little city almost.
Yeah.
And it was beautiful. They had a beautiful pool and, but we were beat. So we had dinner and then we were by the pool and then we basically we're going to go to bed. It was like around 9:00 already and it was dark at that point. And then we had to wake up earlier to go to the airport and get our flight and stuff. And all of a sudden, what do we hear? We hear drums.
Oh, yes, yes. I don't remember what we were doing. We were definitely winding down and suddenly it's just beat. I don't know how to explain it. It was like bum, 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 bum.
Like you're in Africa and you're hearing drums
and it was
like
faint.
that.
It was faint at first and I kind of caught on and I'm like, Mom, stop for a second and listen. Like there's something, I'm not crazy right now. Like, and suddenly it just kept getting louder and it's almost sounded like it was coming towards us. I'm like,
we were like, what's going on? Where are we?
We didn't get the memo about anything. Like maybe,
we were a little nervous to the point where I actually emailed the Airbnb guy through, Airbnb. And I was like, what are those drums?
Because it was going on for a while too, like a good 10 minutes. It was just.
Yeah, it was going on till almost 10 o'clock actually, which I thought was unusual. But we did find out that it had something, Easter was the next week. So it had something to do with Easter.
Some type of parade
but it was, made you think twice a little bit, these little experiences. Yeah. But, so the next morning we went to the airport and then we had the same type of layover and we had a huge issue in Charlotte that delayed us. We almost did not make the connection, but they held the connection. But then they basically said that they were holding LaGuardia Airport open for us because I didn't know LaGuardia closes at midnight. We were going to get in around 1 a.m. with all the delays. And we did. When we got to LaGuardia, we were the only people at LaGuardia. It was quite interesting. But all in all, it was a smooth flight back. So talk to me about your food experience. Like you made a comment to me towards the end of the trip
Right.
about how you felt. Talk to me about that, because I think that was a
Right.
very powerful statement.
Yeah. So of course, for them to know I have stomach issues, so there's just certain things like I don't know exactly if it's the quality of the food, what it's cooked in. I don't know, but when the whole time I was at Costa Rica, I've never felt better. I never felt like that feeling of I regretted what I just ate and I know it's going to bother me. Everything, it almost gave me more energy too throughout the day. All of the food was delicious, but I never had any problems. I never, had to sit something out because my stomach was acting up, because it's a major thing now in my life and it affects a lot of things. But the whole time in Costa Rica, it was never a complaint. Never. And it didn't matter what I ate, because I did have some things other than fish. And I was trying new things, which is also scary with having stomach issues. You don't know. And everything never gave me an issue. Never.
Fresh, local.
And that's something I realized too, was
mostly organic. They don't even define it that way.
Everything is so fresh there. And I think I know that's the reason. Even you didn't even know the fish of the day because they were still catching the fish of the day. So you had to know on spot. You had to ask them on spot, and they'd be like, "Oh, it just came in. It's grouper." They would tell you then, but it's how close it was, the water, and just like again, like how fresh it was, and how they cooked it. Like everything was cooked too so well, and I still think about it. It makes my mouth water. And you can name any place we went, and the food was amazing. Everything about it. Especially, awesome. But my favorite was.
Well, I was happy to hear that you recognized that, because a lot of people wouldn't recognize it as that. It's pretty intense. I know when we went to Grenada, that was something that I felt too, because we were eating everything off the trays and everything that was grown right there. And I remember that feeling of just feeling so, not that I eat clean now, but for some reason there, it just, everything, my stomach felt so good there. So it definitely makes a huge difference. So if I was to ask you what was the highlight besides food? What was the highlight of your trip to Costa Rica? One or two highlights, things that stood out to you as, your favorite parts.
I'd have to say the sunset. As much as some people can go the way of what was most fun, I think that's something that I'm thinking of, what remains in my head and the things that I think about. And of course Chico, but of the sunsets, and even us, we walk to the edge of the beach and you have a random rope swing, and it's quiet. Even if there's people there, there's a sense of quiet in the air. You go to New York City, or even you go outside, and you have to take a moment to kind of listen and say, is it quiet? Can I just think? Can I just live and be in the moment? And anywhere in Costa Rica, you can just listen. Either if you're by the water or in the jungle, you listen to the animals, and you listen almost to the stillness. And it's a surreal feeling. It's nothing like I've ever experienced before, and I'm so lucky to have experienced that. And there's not a single thing I regret ever. I'm so glad that we went to Costa Rica. And it is, one thing, when you mentioned the sunset, there was one memory I just wanted to, say. Remember, there was a guy who he lived on a boat out. And we saw the boat because when you look at the sunset, you saw that boat. And he lived on the boat, and he must have taught paddleboarding. Type of business. Yeah. So he would paddle with his dog to shore every day, every morning, afternoon. His dog would just stand on the front of the board. And then he'd go back every night before the sun would set. So we would see him going back, and his dog would stand on the board with him. One time the dog was actually swimming with him. But for the most part, we would see the dog standing on the board, and he'd be paddling, and then the sun would be setting. And they would just jump on the boat. The dog would literally jump from the paddleboard onto the boat. And I was like, wow. It just enthralled me, that life. It just... Yeah, he lives that. It makes you question, what life do I want to live? And that's such a big thing for people. And that I was like, I'd love to just have me and a dog and just every day get to hang out. Like the dog was so well behaved, like every other dog, but it didn't give the guy any problems. It didn't move on the board. It stood there. And even when, like you said, the guy swam the whole way back, the dog swam right by his side the whole entire way back. And no life jacket. The dog was just being a dog, and just that life. He gets to see that sunset every day.
Yeah. And the connection he had with that animal, you know.
Oh,
so
yeah.
it just was very, you know what? I guess they were just very present. They were present and living a beautiful life.
You felt alive.
Yeah.
Going to you don't experience life at its fullest until you go to these places, until you travel and you experience different places and different traditions and just like how these people live. And it makes you just question a lot, and like you learn so much
and
from
appreciate a lot too.
Yeah.
Very grateful for what you have. So you want to go back one day?
Oh, 100%. Like it is, I've talked about this multiple times with you. I know they wouldn't know that, but I say it all the time. I say it to friends. I say it to everyone, like, you have to go to this place. Like, I was like, I want to go and do the same exact things. I don't care if we, don't experience new things. I will go and relive it for the first time again, and it'll be better than the first time.
Especially the food.
Oh.
We know what restaurants to go to.
You can try whatever. You can go wherever. Go to the most expensive place here, and you will not compare to a very affordable meal at Costa Rica.
Yep. Well, thank you for joining me on the podcast today, Abby. And I'm glad we were able to relive this experience, because I love talking about it, and especially love talking about it with you. And I'm very, very grateful that we were able to take this trip before you embark on the next part of your life in college. Congratulations on graduating high school. And I'm really excited for your college career and beyond.
Thank you. I'm excited too.
Excellent.
Now I'm hungry.
Okay.
Thinking about that fish.
All right. Thanks, Ab. I'll talk to you later. Bye. I hope our Agri-Tourist podcast prompts you to think more about where your food comes from, whether it be your vegetables, fruits, meats, and even those sweet treats. Don't forget to subscribe and share this podcast with someone you think may truly benefit from or be inspired by it. Visit us at agri-tourist.com. Until next time. So I was recently listening to one of the Grounded in Maine podcasts produced by Amy Fagan. The podcast is an open conversation about being mindful about how we show up in the world. It's focused on sustainability and how sustainability impacts every part of our life. What are some of the most important takeaways that people will get from your podcast?
One of the things that I hope that people will take away from the podcast is encouragement. Like, I want them to not feel like you have to spend thousands of dollars to be part of the solution, because, there are a lot of sustainable, things that say sustainability or sustainable, like solar panels or organic cotton and stuff like that. Like, some things are just more expensive because they have that tagline. That phrase or whatever. But there are so many ways that you can be sustainable. You just have to be a little bit creative. And so I'm putting out all these ideas that what people are doing, just to put the thought out there that we can all be part of it without going broke.
So how can people find your podcast?
My podcast is wherever podcasts are found. It is just called Grounded in Maine. I also have my Instagram is where I am most active, and the Instagram handle is Grounded in Maine Podcasts.